born with a shimmering ice crown manifesting on her head, a legendary sign of the prophesied promise made by the moon goddess. The crystalline crown appeared instantly, glowing with ethereal moonlight, its delicate spires sparkling like frozen stars against her tiny forehead. Frost bloomed across the birthing furs in intricate patterns, and the temperature in the grand ice hall dropped so sharply that the elders shivered and the torches dimmed. For one fleeting moment, the gathered wolves stared in stunned silence. Then fear overtook them. Instead of celebration, the pack elders and her own parents declared her a cursed omen. "This is no blessing," her mother, Lady Sigrid Voss, hissed, recoiling from the infant. "The ice crown brings only ruin, eternal winter, and the fall of our pack." Her father, Beta Garrick Voss, snarled in agreement, his eyes filled with disgust. "She is a blight. We will not allow this false savior to taint our bloodline." The decision was swift and merciless. They wrapped her in nothing but a thin, ragged scrap of cloth and carried her out into the raging blizzard. The wind howled like vengeful spirits as they dropped her tiny body deep into a snowdrift beyond the protective runestones. Her weak cries were instantly swallowed by the storm, snow piling over her fragile form as the cold threatened to claim her life forever. But the moon goddess had not abandoned her chosen one. A lone elder, the ancient shaman Thornival, had witnessed the birth from the shadows. Tears froze on his weathered face as he slipped away from the hall while the others returned to their hearths. Braving the deadly gale, he dug through the deepening snow with numb hands and gently lifted the freezing infant into his arms. The shimmering ice crown had faded into a faint glowing mark on her forehead, but her silver-white hair and luminous blue eyes already spoke of the powerful silver snow wolf destined to awaken within her. "You have to live, little one," he whispered fiercely, cradling her against his warm fur cloak. "The prophesied promise will be fulfilled. One day, those who called you cursed will kneel before you." With great effort, Elder Thornival carried her far beyond the northern Frostpack's borders, through the merciless night, until he reached the edge of the human world. On the snow-covered steps of a remote orphanage, he placed her carefully in a sturdy basket lined with his own cloak. With a trembling finger, he etched a protective silver rune into the wood to mask her scent and power. Airless, he named her softly, the ancient word for snowborn light. Airless Voss, your throne awaits. As the first pale light of dawn broke through the storm clouds, Elder Thornival vanished back into the frozen wilderness, leaving the future Queen of the North to her hidden fate, and the long, painful journey that would one day bring her back to claim everything she was born for. 25 years had passed since that fateful night, yet the cold still clung to Airless Voss like an old, unwelcome friend. She moved through the dimly lit diner in the remote northern town of Frosthaven like a ghost, head down, her long silver-white hair carefully tucked beneath a worn scarf, luminous blue eyes avoided at all costs. To the locals, she was just another rejected nobody, the quiet orphan girl no one wanted, passed from foster home to foster home, always the outsider. "Earless, table 6 is still waiting," her manager barked, his voice dripping with disdain. The other waitresses snickered as she hurried past, accidentally spilling a drink on her apron. A group of rowdy locals at the counter laughed openly. "Freak girl strikes again." She bit her tongue, fists clenched at her sides. That familiar icy tingle surged beneath her skin, frost threatening to bloom across her fingertips. She shoved her hands into her pockets until the dangerous cold subsided. No one could ever know about the strange powers that flared whenever she grew angry or scared. The brutal snowstorm outside had worsened as closing time approached. Earless was wiping down the last table when her manager slammed a thin pay envelope onto the counter. "You're fired," he said flatly. Customers complain about you. You're bad for business. Take your things and get out." Her heart plummeted. "Please, it's the middle of the storm. I have nowhere—" "Out," he snapped, shoving her toward the door. Earless stepped into the howling blizzard, her linen silk cloth pulled tight around her slender frame. The wind whipped snow into her face like icy needles. She trudged through the deserted streets, teeth chattering, her powers flickering weakly as she tried to stay warm. Then she heard it. Low, menacing growls cutting through the storm. 3 massive wolves emerged from the swirling snow, eyes glowing with unnatural intelligence. They weren't ordinary animals. Their scent carried something ancient, familiar. Something from the nightmares she could never quite remember. They circled her slowly, lips curled back in snarls. "Who are you?" Earless whispered, voice trembling. "What do you want from me? Please, don't hurt me." "You shouldn't have survived," one of them growled inside her mind through a twisted pack link she didn't understand. "The cursed one must die." Earless backed away, heart pounding. Her icy powers flared brighter, frost crackling across the ground beneath her boots. But she was exhausted, starving, and freezing. One wolf lunged. She screamed as sharp teeth tore into her arm. She fell hard into the snow. The blizzard swallowed her completely. Darkness closed in as the cold seeped deep into her bones, threatening to finish what had begun 25 years ago. In her fading consciousness, a powerful, ancient voice whispered from deep within. "Wake up, Eirlish! The silver snow wolf rises." The ancient voice echoed through the darkness, pulling her under, warm and powerful, like a long-forgotten song. In the freezing void, something deep inside Eirlish shattered open. A surge of raw, primal energy exploded through her veins. Her body arched in the snow as unbearable heat clashed with the deadly cold. Bones cracked and reformed. Silver-white fur, shimmering like fresh snow under moonlight, burst across her skin. Her luminous blue eyes snapped open, now glowing with icy fire. The wound on her arm sealed instantly as crackling frost power radiated outward, freezing the attacking wolves mid-lunge. She shifted partially, not fully beast, but something majestic and terrifying in between. Tall, graceful, with elegant white-silver fur that gleamed like starlight, razor-sharp claws, and an aura of swirling frost that turned the blizzard around her into a protective vortex. The 3 wolves stumbled back, snarling in shock and fear. "Impossible," one of them growled through the fractured mind link. "She is cursed. Eirlish," or the being she was becoming, rose to her feet. Power coursed through her, ancient and unstoppable. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel cold. She was the cold. A clear feminine voice spoke directly into her mind, calm and regal. "We are one, Eirlish. I am your silver snow wolf. We are destined for the throne." Images flooded her consciousness, flashes of her birth, the shimmering crown, her parents and pack rejection, Elder Thornival's whispered promise. The wolves attacked again in desperation, but Eirlish moved with unnatural speed. A sweep of her quad hand sent a wave of frost that encased 2 of them in glittering ice. The third turned to flee, but her power lashed out, freezing its legs to the ground. She stood amid the storm, chest heaving, silver fur rippling in the wind. The scarf that had hidden her hair for years lay shredded on the snow, her long white locks now flowing freely, crowned with faint traces of glowing ice crystals. I remember," she whispered, voice layered with the wolf's resonance. Tears froze on her cheeks before they could fall. "They rejected me and threw me away, but I survived. We survived." The silver snow wolf's voice returned, stronger now. "The northern frost pack will regret the day they cast us out." The partial shift receded as the immediate danger passed.
leaving Eirlis human once more, but forever changed. Her body no longer trembled from the cold. Strength and clarity flowed through her like never before. She looked down at the frozen wolves, then turned toward the distant lights of Frosthaven. For the first time in 25 years, she felt something besides shame and loneliness. Power, purpose, and the faint magnetic pull towards something, someone, far greater, waiting in the north.
The days that followed the awakening blurred into a whirlwind of confusion and newfound strength. Eirlis moved through Frosthaven like a different woman, her silver-white hair now partially hidden under a fresh scarf, but her luminous blue eyes burned brighter, carrying the ancient power of her silver snow wolf. Whispers spread like wildfire through the northern territories. The powerful Alpha King, Volthor Blackthorn, was coming. The ruthless ruler of the United Pax had arrived in the region with his elite warriors to choose a Luna and forge alliances strong enough to withstand the growing threats from rival clans. A grand gathering being held at the ancient Hall of Moonshadow, just beyond the human borders, a place where wolves from every pack would present their finest daughters in hopes of catching the king's eye. Eirlis tried to ignore the rumors. She told herself it meant nothing to an outcast like her. But the pull was impossible to resist. Every night, the same magnetic force tugged at her chest, drawing her north like an invisible chain. Her silver snow wolf stirred restlessly inside her. On the night of the gathering, Eirlis made her decision. She disguised herself in a simple hooded cloak stolen from the diner's Lost and Found, keeping her face shadowed and her distinctive hair tightly bound. Heart pounding, she slipped past the outer guards and blended into the crowd of hopeful she-wolves and curious onlookers inside the grand hall. The Hall of Moonshadow was breathtaking, towering ice pillars, roaring fires and massive hearths, and the faint shimmer of northern lights visible through the crystal ceiling. Music and laughter filled the air, but an undercurrent of tension hummed beneath it all. Eirlis stayed to the edges, observing. Then the room fell into a reverent hush. Alpha King Volthor Blackthorn entered. He was every inch the legend, tall and powerfully built, with dark hair, sharp, battle-hardened features, and eyes like storm clouds. A black fur cloak lined with silver runes draped over his broad shoulders. Raw dominance radiated from him, making even the strongest alphas lower their gazes. Eirlis's breath caught. The pull intensified into a roaring storm inside her. She tried to slip further back into the crowd, but in her haste, she bumped directly into a tall figure. A strong hand shot out to steady her. The moment their skin touched, his bare fingers brushing her wrist where her glove had slipped, electricity exploded between them. Time seemed to stop. A flood of visions crashed through Eirlis's mind, the two of them running together under the northern lights, his teeth marking her neck in a claiming bite, their wolves entwined in a blizzard of frost and shadow, a frozen throne where she sat beside him as Luna. Volthor stiffened, his stormy eyes widening as the same visions clearly assaulted him. His grip on her wrist tightened, not painful, but possessive. A low, involuntary growl rumbled from his chest. "You," he breathed, voice deep and rough like grinding ice. His gaze burned into hers as he reached up and lowered her hood slightly, revealing a glimpse of her silver-white hair and those unmistakable glowing blue eyes. The mate bonds snapped into place with breathtaking force, a golden thread of fate binding their souls. For one electric second, the entire hall seemed to vanish. Only the two of them existed. Then reality crashed back. Volthor's expression shifted from shock to something darker, conflicted. He released her wrist as if her touch burned him, stepping back. But the bond had already awakened, and nothing would ever be the same. The entire hall had gone deathly silent, all eyes turned toward them. Whispers erupted like wildfire. One of Volthor's advisors stepped forward quickly, grabbing Eirlis's arm and yanking her hood fully back. Her long, silver-white hair spilled out, shining under the lights of the Hall of Moonshadow. "My king, she's not one of us," the advisor snarled. "She carries the scent of the Northern Frostpack, but it is tainted. This girl is the abandoned one, the cursed child thrown into the blizzard as a newborn. She is no true wolf, barely more than a weak human stray raised among mortals." Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Some laughed cruelly. Others looked at her with open disgust. Volthor's stormy eyes hardened. He stood tall, every inch the ruthless Alpha King, his broad shoulders rigid beneath his black fur cloak. Inside his chest, his own powerful wolf was roaring in fury. "Do not let her go," his wolf snarled deep in his mind. "She is more than she seems. I smell ancient power, the scent of the silver snow wolf. She is strong. She is ours." But Volthor's face remained cold as ice. His dark past, years of betrayal, bloody battles to claim the throne, and the heavy burden of uniting the packs made him ruthless. He could not appear weak. Not here, not now. "You dare sneak into my gathering, stray?" Volthor's voice boomed across the hall, deep and cutting. "A weak, cursed orphan who was thrown away the moment she was born. You are no Luna of mine. You are nothing but a pathetic, cursed stray. The moon goddess must be mocking me to send someone like you as a mate." The words struck Airless like a physical blow, echoing the exact trauma of her birth. Thrown away, cursed, unwanted. Pain exploded in her chest, sharp and suffocating. Tears burned in her luminous blue eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Her silver snow wolf surged violently inside her, clawing to break free. "He lies!" her wolf howled. "He feels the bond. He knows we are powerful. Make him see." Frost crackled at Airless's fingertips. The temperature in the hall dropped sharply. A thin layer of ice began to spread across the stone floor beneath her feet. Her eyes glowed brighter, and for a terrifying moment, the partial shift threatened to rip through her right there in front of everyone. Volthor noticed. His jaw clenched, and something flickered in his gaze. Conflict, desire, and a hint of fear. His wolf slammed against his control, demanding he claim her, protect her, kneel if necessary. But the king raised his hand, voice like thunder. "Guards, remove this girl from my sight. She is not welcome here." Two massive warriors moved toward her. Heartbroken and trembling with fury, Airless stumbled back. The mate bond screamed in protest, pulling her toward Volthor even as his cruel words shattered her. She turned and fled the Hall of Moonshadow, the bond burning like fire in her soul, her silver snow wolf raging to be unleashed. Volthor watched her go, fists clenched at his sides. His wolf's howls echoed painfully in his mind. He had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Earlys ran. Tears streamed down her face as she fled the Hall of Moonshadow, the cruel echoes of Volthor's words tearing through her like claws. Weak, cursed stray, thrown away. The mate bond burned in her chest like molten ice, pulling her back even as her heart shattered. She didn't stop until the lights of the gathering faded behind her, and the deep northern woods swallowed her whole. Alone beneath the ancient pines, she collapsed against a snow-covered tree, gasping for breath. The rejection cut deeper than any wound. It was the same pain she had carried since birth. Unwanted, cursed, disposable. "I am nothing," she whispered brokenly. But her silver snow wolf would not be silenced. "You are everything," the ancient voice roared inside her. "Rise!" The northern lights suddenly blazed overhead, painting the sky in shimmering curtains of green, purple, and icy blue. As if answering her pain, the power inside Earlys erupted. A brilliant surge of frost exploded outward. Her body lifted slightly off the ground as the full shift took hold. Bones reshaped with beautiful agony. Majestic white-silver fur rippled across her form, thicker and more radiant than before. Her eyes burned with pure ice-blue fire. And upon her head, the legendary ice crown fully manifested. No longer a faint mark, but a glorious, towering crown of crystalline frost and moonlight, glowing with divine power. Delicate spires of ice spiraled upward, sparkling with inner starlight, declaring her true identity to the world. She was no longer the rejected orphan. She was the Silver Snow Wolf. Complete control flooded her senses. Strength like she had never known surged through her powerful limbs. The blizzard around her bent to her will, swirling in a protective dance. A desperate scream suddenly pierced the night. Not far away, a young female wolf from a lesser pack was being ambushed by rogue wolves, scouts from a rival clan seeking to weaken Volthor's alliances. The girl was badly injured, cornered against the rocks, her own wolf too weak to fight back. Without hesitation, Earlys' Silver Snow Wolf charged. She moved like a blizzard given form, graceful, deadly, unstoppable. A single howl from her lips summoned razor-sharp icicles that rained down on the attackers. With powerful swipes of her claws and waves of crackling frost, she froze two rogues solid and sent the others fleeing in terror. She stood protectively over the injured she-wolf, the ice crown gleaming brightly above her head. Gently, she used her power to seal the worst of the girl's wounds with healing frost. You saved me," the young wolf whispered in awe, staring up at the crowned figure. "The prophecy, it's real. You are the Snow Queen." Earlys' wolf inclined her head, the crown sparkling under the aurora. For the first time, she truly believed it. From a distant ridge, hidden in the shadows, Alpha King Volthor Blackthorn watched the entire scene. His stormy eyes widened in disbelief. The power radiating from Earlys was undeniable, ancient, pure, and far greater than anything he had imagined. His own wolf slammed against his ribs, howling in triumph and regret. "I told you," his wolf snarled. "She is no weak stray. She is our Luna, our equal. Go to her." Volthor's fists clenched at his sides. The first cracks formed in the wall he had built around his heart. The rejection that had seemed necessary for political strength now tasted like bitter ash. He had pushed away the one woman the moon goddess had chosen for him, and the realization shook the Alpha King to his core. Volthor Blackthorn could not stay away. The Alpha King told himself it was duty. He was simply ensuring the strange, silver-haired girl didn't cause trouble. But deep down, he knew the truth. The mate bond was devouring him from the inside. He tracked her scent through the northern woods, an intoxicating mix of frost and wild snow that called to both man and wolf. Hidden in the shadows, he saw how she moved with newfound grace, how frost danced at her fingertips when she practiced her power alone, and how the ice crown faintly shimmered above her head when she thought no one was looking. Airless was gathering firewood near her small cabin on the edge of Frosthaven when she felt it, that familiar magnetic pull. The hairs on her neck rose. She turned sharply, and there he was. Volthor stepped out from the tree line, tall and imposing, his dark cloak billowing in the wind. Snowflakes clung to his broad shoulders and sharp jawline. His stormy eyes burned with barely contained hunger. "You," Airless breathed, her silver snow wolf surging forward in both anger and longing. "The great Alpha King who called me a cursed stray. What do you want?" Volthor's jaw tightened. He stalked closer, each step deliberate and powerful. I don't know," he growled, voice low and rough. "I told myself to forget you, but I can't. Your scent haunts me. Your power. It calls to something I cannot ignore." He stopped just inches away. The air between them crackled with tension. Airless's breath came faster, her luminous blue eyes locked on his. The mate bond thrummed like a living thing, pulling them together. "You rejected me in front of everyone," she whispered, voice trembling with hurt and fury. "You humiliated me." "I know." Valthor's hand lifted almost involuntarily, his fingers brushing a strand of her silver-white hair that had escaped her scarf. The touch sent sparks racing across her skin. "I was a fool. My wolf has been tearing me apart since that night." The snow fell heavier around them, but neither noticed. Valthor's other hand moved to her waist, pulling her closer with possessive strength. Their bodies pressed together, heat clashing with frost. Airless could feel the hard muscle beneath his cloak, the rapid beat of his heart matching her own. He leaned down, breath warm against her lips. Their mouths were a whisper apart. Airless's eyes fluttered closed as the bond screamed for completion. She could almost taste him. Dark, masculine, addictive. For one heartbeat, Valthor gave in. His lips brushed hers, soft at first, then deepening with desperate hunger. A low groan rumbled from his chest as frost and shadow magic swirled around them both. But then he wrenched himself back with a tortured growl, stepping away so abruptly she nearly stumbled. "No," he rasped, chest heaving, eyes wild with conflict. "I cannot. Not yet. Claiming you now would paint a target on your back. My enemies would destroy you to weaken me." Airless's silver snow wolf howled in frustration inside her. She touched her tingling lips, equal parts furious and aching. "Then stay away, Your Majesty," she said coldly, even as her body betrayed her with longing. "I don't need a king who is too weak to claim what the moon goddess has given him." Valthor's eyes flashed with raw possessiveness. "You have no idea how hard I'm fighting this, little wolf, but mark my words, I will not stay away for long." He vanished into the trees, leaving Airless standing in the snow, heart racing and lips still burning from his almost kiss. The obsession had only just begun. 2 nights later, under the cover of darkness, Valthor came for her. A shadow detached from the trees outside her cabin. Before Airless could speak, strong arms wrapped around her and a deep voice murmured against her ear. "Come with me. No one can know." She should have refused, but the mate bond pulled her toward him with irresistible force. In a blur of movement, Valthor carried her through the forest at supernatural speed until they reached the towering spires of his hidden royal palace deep in the northern wilderness. He brought her to his private chambers, a vast room of dark stone warmed by a roaring fire, furs draped across a massive bed, and moonlight streaming through ice-laced windows. "I'm here under the guise of questioning your powers," he said as he set her down. His stormy eyes burned with intensity. "But we both know that's a lie." The door closed with a heavy click. The air thickened with tension and unspoken longing. Airless's silver snow wolf surged eagerly. "Why did you bring me here, Valthor?" He stepped closer, shedding his heavy cloak. "Because fighting this bond is tearing me apart." He pulled her into a deep, passionate kiss. Fire and frost collided as his strong arms held her close. Airless melted against him, her hands gripping his shoulders as years of loneliness and desire poured into that single moment. Valthor broke the kiss just enough to rest his forehead against hers, breathing hard. "I feel the bond completely now," he confessed. "You are no cursed stray. You are my fated Luna. Powerful, beautiful, and destined to rule at my side. But completing the bond and claiming you fully could spark war. Rival packs already fear the Ice Crown prophecy. They will come for you to destroy me." "Then let them come," she whispered against his lips. "Not yet, my Snow Queen," he said. "I will protect you first. When the time is right, I will make you mine in every way the Moon Goddess intended." The fragile peace shattered at dawn. Airless was training alone in the snowy clearing near Valthor's palace when the attack came. Dozens of wolves from her birth pack, the Northern Frost Pack, burst from the tree line with murderous intent. Leading them was Beta Garrick Voss, her own father, his eyes filled with hatred. "The cursed one still lives!" he roared. "Kill her before she brings ruin to us all!" Wolves poured into the clearing. At the same moment, Valthor's old enemies, rival alphas who had long resented his rule, used the chaos to strike. They had allied with the Frost Pack in secret, hoping to weaken the king and seize power. Valthor appeared like a storm, leaping into battle with a thunderous roar. His dark wolf form was massive and terrifying, tearing through attackers with ruthless efficiency. "Stay behind me!" he shouted to Airless, fighting his way toward her. But the numbers were overwhelming. Arrows and claws flew. One of the rival alphas landed a brutal blow to Valthor's side, drawing blood. He staggered but kept fighting, protecting Airless with his body. Her silver snow wolf surged with fury. "No more hiding, no more rejection. They tried to kill us once, they will not succeed again." Power exploded within Airless. The Ice Crown fully manifested above her head, glowing with blinding brilliance. She shifted completely, a majestic silver snow wolf with radiant white-silver fur and crackling frost energy that turned the battlefield into a winter storm. She unleashed her power. Blizzards howled at her command. Razor-sharp icicles rained down on the enemy wolves. Waves of freezing energy swept across the field, encasing dozens in solid ice. With graceful yet deadly precision, she fought beside Valthor, her frost complementing his shadow and strength perfectly. When a rival alpha lunged at Valthor's exposed back, ready to deliver a killing strike, Airless was faster. She slammed into the attacker with ferocious power, freezing him mid-air before he could touch the king. Valthor turned just in time to see her save his life. The tide had turned. The surviving attackers fled in terror, howling in defeat. The battlefield fell silent except for the howling wind and the crackling of melting ice. Valthor shifted back to human form, breathing heavily. His warriors stood watching in stunned awe as Airless shifted back as well, the ice crown still shimmering above her silver-white hair. Without hesitation, the mighty Alpha King dropped to one knee before her in front of all his warriors. The gesture sent ripples of shock through the pack. "I was wrong," Valthor declared, his voice loud and unwavering. "I rejected you out of fear and pride. But you are no cursed stray. You are Airless Voss, bearer of the Ice Crown, wielder of the Silver Snow Wolf, and my true, fated mate." He looked up at her with open reverence and fierce love. "I publicly declare you as my Luna. From this day forward, you stand as my equal, my queen, and the rightful ruler by my side. Anyone who dares challenge you will answer to me, and to the power of the Snow Wolf." His warriors, moved by the display and her incredible strength, began to kneel one by one. Cheers and howls of acceptance rose into the morning sky. Airless stood tall, the ice crown glowing softly. Tears of triumph and emotion filled her eyes as she placed her hand on Valthor's shoulder, accepting him at last. The bond between them pulsed stronger than ever. The war for the throne had only just begun, but now they would face it together. That same night, after the battle, Valthor took Airless deep into the sacred northern mountains, where the northern lights danced strongest. They stood together in a secluded clearing, bathed in shimmering curtains of green, purple, and icy blue. The aurora blazed overhead like the moon goddess herself was watching over them. Valthor turned to her, his stormy eyes filled with raw emotion. He cupped her face gently with both hands, thumbs brushing away the last traces of tears from the battle. "Airless," he whispered, "before anything else, I must apologize. I was cruel to you. I called you weak and cursed because I was afraid of how deeply you would change me. I rejected you when you deserved to be cherished from the very first moment. I will spend the rest of my life making up for that pain." Tears welled in Airless's luminous blue eyes. The mate bond pulsed warmly between them, stronger than ever. "I forgive you," she said softly, placing her hand over his heart. "But only if you never push me away again." "Never," he vowed. He pulled her into a deep, passionate kiss. The aurora above them flared brighter, as if in celebration. Valthor's strong arms wrapped around her, holding her close as the kiss grew more intense, full of longing, relief, and burning desire. He paused at the sensitive spot where her shoulder met her neck, his breath warm against her skin. "Are you ready, my Luna?" he murmured. "Yes," she whispered. "Make me yours." With a deep, possessive growl, Valthor sank his fangs into her neck in the sacred claiming bite. At the same moment, Airless's silver snow wolf surged forward and marked him back. A brilliant explosion of light and power erupted around them. The mate bond snapped fully into place. Ice and shadow magic merged in a breathtaking rush, her frost weaving with his darkness, creating something new, stronger, and beautifully balanced. The ice crown glowed radiantly above her head, while Valthor's shadow aura swirled protectively around them both. Pleasure and pure connection flooded their souls. They held each other tightly through the waves of the bond completing, whispering promises and words of love as the aurora danced wildly overhead. When the light finally faded, Valthor rested his forehead against hers, breathing hard, eyes shining with deep emotion. "You are mine," he said reverently, "and I am yours. Forever, Airless, my snow queen, my Luna." She smiled, tracing the fresh mark on his neck with gentle fingers. For the first time in her life, she felt completely whole. The claiming was complete. Their powers were one, and their destiny had truly begun. The days following the claiming were a whirlwind of change and challenge. Airly stood in the grand training grounds of the royal palace, the northern lights still faintly glowing in the twilight sky. With Valthor watching proudly from the side, she trained relentlessly with her newly completed bond. Ice and shadow now danced together at her command, beautiful spirals of frost woven with tendrils of darkness that could shield or strike with devastating precision. At first, many pack members remained skeptical. Whispers followed her everywhere. The thrown-away orphan, the cursed one who bewitched the king. Some warriors refused to bow, and the court nobles eyed her with suspicion. But Airly refused to shrink. During a public training session, a group of elite warriors challenged her. She moved with graceful power, summoning a blizzard that disarmed them without harm, then created a protective dome of ice and shadow that even the strongest among them could not break. When she lowered the barrier and offered her hand to help one fallen warrior to his feet, respect began to bloom. "She truly carries the power of the prophecy," one elder murmured. Slowly, the pack started to warm to their new Luna. Yet not everyone was pleased. In the shadowed halls of the court, jealousy festered. Valthor's former mistresses, beautiful but ambitious she-wolves who had once hoped to become Luna, gathered in secret with a few rival alphas still bitter about his rule. "She is nothing but a stray raised by humans," one mistress hissed. "We must expose her weakness before she solidifies her place." The rival alphas nodded. "If we turn the pack against the thrown-away Luna, Valthor's rule will crumble." Unbeknownst to them, their plotting reached Valthor's ears. That night, in the privacy of their royal chambers, the fierce Alpha King knelt before Airly once more, this time in complete submission, resting his head against her lap as she sat by the fire. "I hate that they still doubt you," he growled softly, his strong arms wrapping around her waist. "Tell me who threatens you, and I will end them." Airly ran her fingers through his dark hair, the ice crown faintly glowing above her head. "You don't need to fight every battle for me, my king. I am stronger now. We are stronger together." Valthor looked up at her with fierce devotion and something almost vulnerable. "You are my Luna, my equal. But in these private moments, I am yours completely. I will protect you with my life, Airly. No one will ever throw you away again." He pulled her down into a deep, tender kiss, one filled with love, possessiveness, and quiet reverence. In public, he was the ruthless Alpha King, but behind closed doors, he submitted his heart fully to the woman the moon goddess had chosen for him. As they held each other, Airly felt the weight of her new role. The court plots were brewing, but with Valthor at her side and her silver snow wolf awakened, she was ready to rise. The true test of her queenship was only beginning. The fragile peace did not last. Word of Earless's rising power and the public claimings spread like wildfire across the northern territories. The rival pacts, led by those who had plotted in the shadows, united under a single banner. They called her the Cursed Ice Queen and declared that her existence threatened the entire werewolf world. "They march on us," Valthor announced one cold morning, standing beside Earless on the palace battlements. "Thousands strong. They mean to end this before you fully claim your throne." Earless's luminous blue eyes hardened with resolve. The ice crown shimmered above her silver-white hair. "Then we meet them head-on, together." The battlefield was a vast frozen plain where the northern winds howled. The rival forces charged like a dark tide, wave after wave of wolves, alphas, and warriors roaring for blood. Valthor shifted into his massive shadow wolf and led the charge, a blur of darkness and fury. But the enemy numbers were overwhelming. They pressed hard, trying to separate him from Earless. That was their mistake. Earless stepped forward, her silver snow wolf surging to its absolute peak. She threw her head back and unleashed a howl that shook the heavens. The ice crown blazed with blinding light. Power unlike anything she had ever felt flooded her veins. The sky darkened as she commanded the blizzard itself. Ferocious winds whipped across the plain, carrying razor-sharp ice and freezing mist. Entire ranks of enemy wolves were encased in glittering ice mid-stride. Blizzards swirled at her command, blinding and disorienting their forces while shielding her own warriors. She moved like a goddess of winter, graceful, unstoppable, majestic. With sweeping gestures, she summoned walls of ice to block attacks and spears of frost that struck true. Her silver snow wolf form glowed with ethereal power, silver-white fur rippling as she fought at the forefront. Valthor fought beside her like never before. No longer trying to shield her, he embraced her as his true equal. Their powers complemented each other perfectly, his shadows weaving with her ice to create devastating combinations. Where he tore through enemies with raw strength, she froze them in place for the final strike. At one critical moment, a coalition of rival alphas broke through and surrounded Valthor, aiming to take down the king. Earless roared and unleashed a massive wave of frost that froze them solid, saving him once again. Valthor turned to her amid the chaos, his eyes shining with pride and love. "My Luna, my queen!" Together they pushed forward. Earless reached the height of her power, summoning a colossal blizzard that swept across the battlefield like the wrath of the moon goddess. The enemy lines shattered. Those who survived turned and fled in terror, howling in defeat. When the storm finally calmed, the plain was covered in ice and silence. Valthor shifted back and strode to Earless, pulling her into his arms before all their warriors. He kissed her fiercely in victory, no longer hiding his devotion. "You are the true ruler of the North," he declared for everyone to hear. "My equal in every way. The ice crown has risen, and no one will ever threaten my Luna again." Cheers and victorious howls rose from their pack as the survivors knelt before their king and queen. The war for the throne was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted forever. The great battlefield lay quiet now, the snow stained with the evidence of war, but the air filled with hope. The rival packs had been defeated. The Northern Frost Pack, Eirlish's birth pack, had surrendered and was brought before the royal courtyard. Beta Garrick Voss and Lady Sigrid Voss were forced to kneel in chains before Eirlis and Valthor. Garrick snarled in defiance, but Sigrid's eyes showed fear for the first time. "We only followed the prophecy as we understood it," she tried to justify. Eirlis stood tall, the ice crown glowing above her head. Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of years of pain. "You threw your own daughter into the blizzard to die because you feared what I might become. You called me cursed. You made me believe I was worthless for 25 years. The entire court fell silent. But I survived. I rose. And I will not become the monster you feared." She looked at Valthor, who gave her a proud nod. Then she delivered her judgment. "The Northern Frost Pack will swear loyalty to the crown. Your leaders, my parents, will be stripped of their titles and banished to the outer territories. They may live, but they will never again hold power. Let them watch from afar as the cursed child rules the north." Garrick looked broken. Sigrid wept, reaching out toward Eirlis, but guards held her back. As they were led away, Eirlis turned to the pack members who had once followed her parents. "Those who wish to start anew may stay and prove their loyalty. The rest may leave with them." Many chose to stay. That evening, the entire kingdom assembled in the vast courtyard of the royal palace. Thousands of wolves from every allied pack stood in awe as banners of ice and shadow fluttered in the cold wind. Torches and glowing runes lit the night, while the aurora danced brilliantly overhead. Valthor Blackthorn, the mighty Alpha King, stood tall in his royal armor, his dark hair tousled from battle and his stormy eyes shining with pride. Beside him, Eirlis waited in a flowing gown of silver and deep blue, her long white hair crowned with delicate frost crystals. But Valthor was not done kneeling. Before the eyes of the entire kingdom, the Alpha King dropped to one knee once more. A reverent hush fell over the crowd. He lifted a magnificent crown, forged of pure ice and moonlight, embedded with ancient runes that matched the legendary ice crown, and held it high for all to see. "Today, I kneel not as a king humbled by war," Valthor declared, his powerful voice carrying across the courtyard, "but as a man who has finally accepted the will of the moon goddess." He looked up at Eirlis with open, unwavering love. "Eirlis Voss, bearer of the ice crown, awakener of the silver snow wolf, you were thrown away at birth, rejected and cursed by those who feared your power. Yet you rose. You saved my life. You saved this kingdom. You are no longer the outcast. You are the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy." The crowd held its breath. Valthor continued, his voice thick with emotion. "I publicly declare my love for you, Eirlis. You are my fated mate, my strength, my heart. From this day forward, I crown you not only as my Luna, but as Queen of the North, co-ruler of all the united packs." With solemn reverence, he stood and placed the crown upon her head. The moment it touched her, the true ice crown manifested in full glory, shimmering, radiant, and pulsing with divine power. Frost and shadow magic swirled around them both in a breathtaking display. The kingdom erupted in cheers and howls of celebration. Warriors and elders alike fell to their knees in respect. Eirlis pulled Valthor into a deep, passionate hug right there before the entire kingdom, a public seal of their bond and their love. Eirlis lets out a breath she feels like she's been holding for 25 years. The weight of her past is finally lifted, but a lingering ache remains in her chest. Valthor steps up behind her, his large, warm hand settling gently on the small of her back. She looks up, expecting his usual fierce, kingly expression, but instead, a soft, knowing smile touches his lips. "The justice is complete, my queen," Valthor murmurs, his deep voice carrying only to her. "But your healing is not. I have one more gift for you." Airlie's brows furrow in confusion. "A gift? Valthor, the war is won. Look," he interrupts gently, turning her toward the grand archway of the royal courtyard. Valthor raises his hand, and the elite royal guards step back, parting the sea of thousands of warriors. From the shadows of the archway, an old, frail figure steps forward. He leans heavily on a wooden staff etched with familiar silver runes, moving slowly but with undeniable dignity. His fur cloak is weathered and travel-worn. Airlie's freezes. Her heart stops, and then begins to hammer against her ribs. Her silver snow wolf stirs inside her, letting out a soft, reverent whine of recognition. It is the ancient shaman, the one from her visions, the one who braved the deadly gale when she was just a discarded newborn. Elder Thornival looks up at the dais. His eyes, clouded with age but bright with emotion, lock onto Airlie's. Tears glisten on his wrinkled cheeks, reflecting the glowing light of the northern lights above. "I told you, little one," the old man whispers, his voice trembling but echoing clearly in the silent courtyard. "I told you your throne awaited." A gasp escapes Airlie's lips. Breaking all royal protocol, she drops the train of her silver and blue gown and sprints down the steps of the dais. She doesn't care that the entire kingdom is watching. She doesn't care about the crown on her head. She throws her arms around the old shaman, holding him tight as if he might vanish back into the blizzard. The scent of old pine and protective magic wraps around her, safe and familiar. "Father," she sobs into his shoulder, the word tearing from the deepest, most wounded part of her soul. "You're alive. You found me." Thornival's trembling hands wrap around her, holding her with the exact same fierce tenderness he had 25 years ago on the orphanage steps. "I never stopped watching over you, Airlie, my beautiful, brave daughter. Look at you, Queen of the North." Up on the dais, Valthor watches the reunion, his jaw tight as he fights back his own emotion. His stormy eyes shine with pure satisfaction. He has given his Luna her true family. Airlie spoke clearly, her voice carrying the resonance of her silver snow wolf. The ice crown was never a curse. It was a promise. And today, that promise is fulfilled. The thrown-away girl had become queen. The prophecy was complete, and the North would never be the same. Months later, the North flourished under the rule of its true king and queen. Airlie and Valthor sat side by side on the dual thrones carved from ancient ice and shadowed stone. The kingdom had never known such peace and prosperity. Under their combined reign, ice and shadow magic brought harmony. Harsh winters were tempered with protection, old rivalries faded, and the packs united as one. By day, they ruled with wisdom and strength. Airlie's silver snow wolf and ice crown had become symbols of hope rather than fear. She walked among her people, healing the wounded, training young wolves, and ensuring no child would ever be thrown away as she once was. By night, their bond burned as passionately as the aurora itself. In the quiet moments, Valthor remained fiercely protective, yet beautifully submissive in private. He would pull her close, kissing the claiming mark on her neck with reverence, whispering how she had saved him in every possible way. One quiet evening, as fresh snow began to fall gently over the palace gardens, they slipped away from the court. Hand in hand, they walked to the same sacred clearing where their bond had first completed under the northern lights. Snowflakes danced around them like tiny stars. Airlie leaned back against Valthor's broad chest as he wrapped his strong arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Look at what we've built," he murmured, voice warm with wonder. "All because a rejected girl refused to stay broken." Airlie smiled, the ice crown shimmering softly above her silver-white hair. And because a stubborn king finally learned to kneel before the one the moon goddess chose. He turned her gently in his arms, cupping her face with both hands. His stormy eyes were filled with endless love. I thank the goddess every day for you, my Luna, my queen, my everything. Their lips met in a deep, passionate kiss, slow and full of promise. Frost and shadow swirled lovingly around them as the snow fell thicker, blanketing the world in peaceful white. Valthor pulled back slightly, a rare, playful smile touching his lips. I have been thinking, perhaps it is time for an heir. A little one with your silver hair and my stubbornness. Airless laughed softly, placing a hand over her stomach with a knowing sparkle in her eyes. Perhaps they are already on their way. Joy lit up Valthor's face. He lifted her effortlessly, spinning her under the gently falling snow as their laughter echoed through the clearing. As the snow continued to fall, they stood wrapped in each other's arms, foreheads pressed together. I was born with an ice crown and thrown away, Airless whispered, but I was always meant to find you. And I was always meant to kneel before you, Valthor replied, voice thick with emotion. My fated mate, my eternal winter bond. Above them, the northern lights blazed in celebration, a dazzling display of green, purple, and icy blue, as if the moon goddess herself was smiling down on the queen who had risen from nothing. The thrown-away girl had become legend. The Alpha King had found his true Luna, and their love, forged in rejection, tempered by war, and sealed under the aurora, would echo through the ages. The end. Thank you for joining me on Airlys and Valthor's journey, from the depths of rejection and pain to the heights of love, power, and destiny. This story was born from the classic yet ever-powerful trope of the thrown-away heroine who rises to become queen. A tale of healing, fated mates, and the strength that comes from embracing who you truly are. Writing Born with an Ice Crown reminded me why I fell in love with werewolf shifter romances in the first place. The raw emotion, the sizzling tension, the epic battles, and the beautiful redemption of a love that refuses to be denied. If you laughed, cried, cheered, or felt your heart race during the Northern Lights claiming scene, please let me know in the comments. Which moment was your favorite? A huge thank you to everyone who listened, shared, and supported this story. Your comments and likes help stories like this reach more people who need a little magic, passion, and hope in their day. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. I have more possessive alpha, strong Luna, and fated mates stories coming soon. Until the next full moon, stay warm, stay strong, and never let anyone convince you that you are just a stray.